Hello, and welcome to Swans and Cake, a podcast all about me, Aline. This episode is the third episode in the series that I have entitled This Is Me. In this series, I've been honestly sharing about my experiences during this pandemic, and I hope that you will enjoy listening to this episode. This week, I began doing something new. I've started running. My friend Ryan challenged me to do a 5K run a few weeks ago, and I don't normally like running. In fact, I would go so far as to say that I hate running. But as he challenged me, I thought, okay, I'd give it a go. So today, in this episode, you'll come with me. Come for a run. Are you ready? Ready, steady, let's go. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of attending a fundraising event organized by Club Kampala, a charity that helps poor children and orphans in Uganda. Before attending the concert, I'd never heard of the artist Laura Mvula. She was new on the scene. As her performance began, she sat down slowly at the piano, stretched out her fingers, and began to play. Her soulful voice silenced the crowd. One of my favorite songs by her is Green Garden, as I love to be outside in my own garden. This episode of the podcast is called Take Me Outside, inspired by the song Green Garden that she wrote. At the start of the pandemic, I was due to return to China from London. Before I was due to leave, I met up with my dad for a social distance walk to say goodbye. It was important for my dad and I, after being apart for a while previously, to see each other. We went for a walk in this little nature reserve area near my house. It was the middle of spring. It was beautiful, and lots of tall daffodils were in full bloom. We walked around a bit, looked at a little canal, which surprisingly was not full of litter. This sometimes is the case in London. After a short stroll, my dad sat down on a bench, whilst I took some long-distance selfies. I love this time of being with my dad and being outside. I grew up living with my mum, but I had very regular contact with my dad as a child. He was and still is a key person in my life. As a child, he would often come visit me at the weekends when he could. We would often go to my local park to look at the flowers together. I remember when I told him one Sunday that I wanted to have my own plant. I was young then, perhaps 8 years old. We went to my local garden centre together, and I chose 2 plants that I liked, and I loved caring for them. They were the first living things that I owned. I find so much joy in simply being outside. I love garden birds, especially blue tits and robins. I love flowers, and I love being out in the fresh air. During this time of lockdown, the world around us has changed. We've all been taken out of our comfort zones, and we've all been forced to spend less time outside and more time working from home. During the pandemic, I spent some time helping a member of my family. My family and I have all been trying to do our part to help her. This really took me out of my comfort zone. I've never been a carer before. I remember one day when my mum and I went to see her, and she asked me to plait her hair, as she could not do this herself, and it hadn't been done for months. As I began to do this, I realised that she also needed her hair washed, but she hadn't asked for that. But my mum and I did it anyway. As we finished and sat beside her, I noticed her feet. She was unable to reach down to look after them. I have this slight phobia about feet, but in that moment, I didn't see feet. I just saw her. Without thinking, I got some lotion and carefully moisturized her feet before carefully putting back on her slippers. She was so happy and so relieved. Why, why am I telling you this? It's not so that you will think well of me, but it's to encourage you to step outside of yourself. Look around you. Who around you really needs help, but is too proud or too afraid to ask? At the moment, lots of people are focusing on rights and what we are entitled to, which is a valid concern. But let's not forget to also focus on what is right. What is the right thing to do? What is the right thing for you to do? Recently, I watched an Olympic video about the history of high jumping. Over time, the bar that the athletes had to jump over was raised. They had to learn different skills and work on new techniques. Watching this video made me reflect on my own approach to challenges, and I came to this conclusion. Just because the obstacles that you face get harder, it doesn't mean that you should stop playing the game. It's time for you to up your game. It's time for you to run your race faster, to love harder, and to be kinder. Simply put, never tire of doing good. Over the last few days, I've heard a number of people use the word whitewashing. But what does it mean? In the online Cambridge Dictionary, it says this: whitewashing, a noun, in brackets hiding. Whitewashing, an attempt to stop people finding out the true facts about a situation. I'll just read it again. Whitewashing, an attempt to stop people finding out the true facts about a situation. They give some examples. That was a whitewashing. They all had the information, and they did nothing. There were protests over the alleged whitewashing of the country's wartime past in school textbooks. He accused the district attorney of whitewashing by not asking hard questions of at least one witness. I believe that our society is built on whitewashing, but we can no longer allow a whitewashing of the criminal justice system, of the healthcare system, of the education system. We need to challenge whitewashing in all elements of our society. Over the last few weeks, different people from different racial backgrounds have asked me these questions. Do you know that Black Lives Matter? Do you know that Black lives are a priority right now? I am Black, and I know that Black lives matter. I know that my life matters, And I know that the lives of all the Black community matter too. It's important at this pivotal moment in time where equality for all seems to ebb ever closer, that you ask yourself honestly, how much do Black lives matter to you? Would you take a pay cut so that your Black colleague and yourself could have equal pay? Would you vote for policies that put the rights of Black people, refugees, and people from the LGBTQIA+ community first? Ask yourself honestly, how much do Black lives matter to you? How much do they really matter to you? If you can only answer half-heartedly, your efforts will only lead to a partial change and some kind of partial freedom. But Black people have that already. However, if you passionately believe that Black lives matter, then refuse to let your voice be silenced until everyone in your home, your community, and the world truly believes the same. Nina Simone, in her song, "I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free," said this. I'll read you some of the lyrics. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say 'em loud and say 'em clear for the whole round world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart, remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree that every man should be free. I believe that we can all have true freedom in our lifetime. But we can't have this freedom if we don't fight for it together. Benjamin Franklin said, "Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are." I'll just say it again. Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. So, listeners, are you outraged?